Good morning. My name is Lou Panzica. I'm President and CEO of Power Drives. I'd like to welcome everyone here to Power Drives for this press conference today, announcing a joint demonstration project between NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and Power Drives. You know, we don't hold many press conferences here at Power Drives. In fact, if you include this one today, that brings our grand total to one. So it's our first shot at this. But I'd like to take a minute and thank the people who helped put this together today. First, our warehouse team, Corey, Terrence, led by Jim Lamancuso, and particularly Stan Musinski, who really went above and beyond and took it upon himself to do a great job here getting this room ready. So thank you, guys. And I'd also like to thank Greg Meckes for his attention to detail, and particularly to Roseanne Panzica, who really put the moving parts all together on this, handled everything from the flowers to the food to the invitations, and actually somebody called her today the Kim Pagula of Power Drives. So I'd actually say Kim is the Roseanne Panzica of the Sabres, but you know, that's my preference. Well, we have several special guests here today, some of whom will be speaking in a few minutes, and I'll introduce them at that point. And we also have some invited guests that I'd like to recognize. From NYSERDA, Alan Wexler, Communications Director. From Senator Gillibrand's office, Trana Batchelor. Did I say that right? Okay. We were supposed to have someone from Finger Lakes Railroad. Is Craig Holden here? Nope. Guess he couldn't make it today. And then some very special guests without whom none of this would be happening, and those are the PDI team members around the room today. So thank you all for attending. Appreciate it. Power Drives is proud to have entered into this cost-sharing contract with NYSERDA to demonstrate the powerhouse diesel warming systems on 6 short-line railroads across New York State, doing business in New York State. And actually, our systems will be deployed on 11 locomotives across those 6 railroads. So we'll have 11 units, demo units out there on this project. Now, the powerhouse significantly reduces fuel consumption and related emissions for locomotives that would otherwise have to idle in cold weather in order to avoid engine freeze-ups. Statistics show that on short lines, locomotives idle maybe half of their life, and at idle, a locomotive will burn between 3 and 6 gallons of fuel per hour. Our powerhouse system allows the locomotive to shut down the engine, and our system burns at temperature about a half a gallon of fuel per hour. So significant savings. So this demonstration project includes both the DWS 120 and our APU version, our auxiliary power unit version. Both models heat the engine coolant. An engine coolant in a locomotive is generally water. Locomotives, for environmental reasons, locomotives don't use glycol or antifreeze as a coolant. So we heat the coolant with a diesel-fired burner, and we pull the diesel fuel for that burner directly from the locomotive fuel tanks. The DWS 120 circulates the fluid, the engine coolant, using a circulating pump powered by a normal 120 external outlet, so a normal household outlet. And this differentiates us from our competition because our competitors normally use 440 three-phase power, which is very difficult to, first of all, find in a rail yard and very unsafe to use in a rail yard. The APU model creates its own power using an EPA-certified onboard diesel engine, which powers an alternator. This really allows flexibility as to when and where the unit can be used. So the 120 was designed for locomotives that return to the home base every night and have easy access to shore power. While the APU is for locomotives that may have to shut down in a rural location or just are shut down in an area that does not have access to shore power. Now, Power Drives began supplying the locomotive industry as an OEM supplier, original equipment manufacturer supplier, to the industry almost 30 years ago in 1982. Over the years, PDI's experience in the industry and engineering expertise allowed us to work closer with our customers on more advanced technologies. In 2004, a customer came to us and requested assistance in the design, manufacture, and testing of a system that would provide auxiliary heat for an order of locomotives, order of 78 locomotives that they had from a Chinese customer. In fact, these locomotives were going to the Qinghai Tibet Railway. It's a railway that connects China with Tibet. And these locomotives are going to see very extreme conditions, temperatures of minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit at altitudes of about 17,000 feet above sea level, so very extreme conditions. Well, we completed the design and assembly of these units, which were first tested here on the East Coast and then further tested in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado before they were shipped to China. And this project was so successful that we looked for other opportunities where we could use this particular design. Actually, the units needed to be redesigned. The units that went to China were probably a little 2 times plus the size of this 120 unit. It was 2 diesel-fired burners. These are 120,000 BTU diesel-fired burners, and those were dual-burner units, so significantly bigger. We knew we had to re-engineer this and redesign this for the North American marketplace. So we assigned a very talented team of engineers to this project, and we gave them a list of objectives. First, the final product needed to be compact, because in many locomotives, there's not a big footprint where you can mount these things inside the cab. Secondly, it also had to minimize its fuel consumption and comply with EPA Tier 4 emission standards. One of our objectives was to help bring short lines into compliance with EPA air emission standards. We also listened to the voice of the customer, and the customer demanded that, first of all, it has a minimum maintenance schedule. But what maintenance is required of this unit had to fit within the 92-day standard schedule that locomotives are required by FRA to comply with. Probably the most challenging objective we put before the team is it had to have operate simply enough so that the president of the company, me, could go out and do customer demos. So I'm very happy to say that the team hit all of the objectives, and I'll be doing demos after this outside. But I couldn't be more proud of a team here at Power Drives than I am of that team. On August 3rd, 2010, Power Drives was awarded a patent by the U.S. Patent Office for our APU model. And just this past spring, Power Drives was awarded the 2011 Innovate Buffalo Niagara Award presented by the Buffalo Niagara Partnership. So we're very proud of those accomplishments. You know, it bothers me when people say that manufacturing is dead in the U.S. or in New York State or in Western New York, because all you need to do is look around and you'll see many companies like Power Drives who are thriving manufacturers. I believe that through innovation, we can maintain a competitive edge in this global environment. And I also believe that the business environment in New York State is changing. This demonstration project, where Power Drives, the short lines, and New York State all have a financial commitment, we all have skin in the game, is a great example of a public-private partnership where Western New York businesses are going to benefit. New York State businesses are going to benefit when you look at the railroads as well. So I'd like to thank NYSERDA for the opportunity to independently prove the effectiveness of this technology on both a cost level and an environmental level as a result of this project. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the podium the President and CEO of NYSERDA, Mr. Frank Murray. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I begin, first of all, by thanking Chris and his colleagues here at Power Drive, both for hosting us here today and your hospitality. Perhaps, though, even more importantly, your willingness to pursue innovation to improve the business model for his company. I'm pleased to see you joined today by a colleague in state government back in Albany, Senator Kennedy. For those of you who are not familiar with NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, we are a public we're a state agency. Technically, we're a public authority whose roots go back to the Rockefeller administration. Early on, our history was primarily focused upon research and deployment of technologies in the energy and the environmental sector. We were a fairly small agency in those days, probably around $15–20 million. But over time, as our mission has expanded to beyond simply research and development, but to the actual deployment of energy efficiency and renewable energy technologies, we have grown to the degree of, I think most recently our budget was somewhere in the order of about $650 million a year. Now, we're able to do what we do in part because of the talented group of people that I'm surrounded by at NYSERDA. I have a very simple administrative rule. I surround myself with people smarter than I am and let them do their jobs. And I found that's a way of making yourself look pretty darn good. But we also wouldn't be able to do what we do as well as we do without the support, obviously, of the governor and his leadership, as well as the state legislature. While many of our funds don't come from the state legislature, we are indeed a creation of the state legislature. And without the support of folks like Senator Kennedy and his colleagues in both the state Senate as well as the Assembly, we wouldn't be able to do what we do as well. If I might, I have some prepared remarks, but I wanted to pick up on something that Lou was talking about, and that is the state of manufacturing here in New York State. I couldn't agree with Lou more. I mean, there have been some tough times here in New York State and across the country over the last few decades. But as I see what's happening in New York State right now, I see indeed a new horizon, a new environment in which, under the governor's leadership and the support of the state legislature, we are seeing a revival of manufacturing here in New York State. Last week, the governor announced the investment of over $4 billion by IBM and Intel to build brand new manufacturing facilities here in New York State that are related to the semiconductor industry. And while some of that will be centered in the Capital District area around Albany, that project will create jobs in the lower Hudson Valley as well as west into Utica all the way to the Rochester area. That is 9,000 new and retained jobs in primarily the manufacturing sector here in New York State. GE, for example, announced recently is in the process of constructing a brand new battery manufacturing facility in Schenectady, New York, upstate New York. It didn't get a whole lot of fanfare, but a little over a week ago, a Chinese company announced that they were purchasing one of IBM's old facilities in the Hudson River Valley to build a PV manufacturing facility. So you can see manufacturing is reviving itself here in New York State. To some degree, perhaps it's taking different forms. Some of the old traditional manufacturing industries was the backbone of economic development here in the western New York and upstate area. But nevertheless, these are jobs, these are manufacturing jobs. And despite all that, and some of this, the PV, the wind, and everything else sometimes is pretty sexy, if you look at the profile of the manufacturing industry in New York State, just last week, a trade association, Central New York, Syracuse, the Manufacturing Association in New York State, issued a survey. And they described the real backbone of the manufacturing industry here in New York State are companies like Lou, companies that employ 50 people or less. That, to a large degree, is the future of the manufacturing industry here in New York State, which will be spinning off of some of these larger energy innovations as well as information knowledge-based technologies that we hear about. So all of that means and emphasizes the importance of what we're talking about today, and that is technological innovation, because technological innovation is the cornerstone of what I see as the new industrial revolution that is steadily sweeping across the state. There are many grand-scale innovations that are perhaps more visible to the everyday consumer, such as wholesale power generations from the wind farms, the steel winds we just passed on the way down, or the electric and plug-in hybrid electrics, vehicles that are going to share space on our roadways, or the building integrated solar arrays that are popping up all across the state and dotting our residential and commercial building stock. But it is really the behind the scenes, what I call the incremental innovation, that is vitally important to building the foundation of the clean energy economy. Now, as Lou was talking about, the transportation of people and goods and services is not only incredibly important to the lives of well-being of our citizens on an everyday basis, but it represents a support mechanism for many, many sectors of our economy. And when you complete a task more efficiently, with less cost and environmental impact, you have scripted what I call a formula for success. And that is exactly what we are here today to recognize and frankly salute: incremental innovation at its finest. Now, it would be easy to focus on the depth and the breadth of the energy and the environmental problems we face, and they are significant. And we could cry uncle while shrinking from the sheer magnitude of the effort necessary to break our addiction to imported petroleum and working to reduce the effects of climate change due to greenhouse gas emissions. But it is through the strength and conviction, the commitment to do it better from companies like PowerDrive that we will ultimately determine our success. Now, we were pleased at NYSERDA to award PowerDrive $250,000 to demonstrate its powerhouse system on the 6 short line railroads across New York State. Short lines, as some of you may know, are railroad companies that deliver freight over short distances. This technology has been adopted by larger companies such as CXX, but has not been embraced by many of the short line railroad companies, primarily due to cost. Powerhouse will bridge that gap by proving even smaller companies can save enough money through this technological innovation to make the return on the investment attractive enough to pursue. Short lines are important, terribly important, because they carry freight from interstate train lines to local customers, serving railroad routes considered too small by the larger freight operators. And in New York, we're home to 29 separate short line operations which collectively own and operate 42% of the overall railroad infrastructure within the state. Rail freight is responsible for 2% of U.S. greenhouse gases, compared to, for example, trucks, which contribute 20% of the overall greenhouse gas emissions. But these freight emissions have grown at twice the rate of passenger vehicle emissions over the last 15 years. And this technology that we're talking about today presents a winning formula to help reduce unnecessary use of diesel fuel. This will be a 14-month demonstration project. We'll be tested in 2 different models, as Lou walked you through, and he's promised to demonstrate out in the parking lot afterwards. I'm glad it was Lou, not me. Powerline's belief in its technology was the impetus for its willingness to match the NYSERDA funds with a financial commitment of its own, and for that we were appreciative. Partnership, and I can't emphasize that concept too much, partnership and collaboration is an essential building block to revitalize and rebuild our economy while we do our best to practice environmental stewardship. I'd like to talk about the overall importance of economic development and what I call the 3 stools. I think government has a role to support economic development here in New York State. We also need the support of academia and our research laboratories in the private sector, our human intellectual capital that produce many of the wonderful ideas which then power our economy. But I also note that the most progressive governmental policies, and we have many of them here in New York State, and the most brilliant academic idea will not create one new job here in New York State unless we're able to attract investment from the private sector. And that's what Lou and many of you here in the audience are about today. We need all 3 of those, government, academia, and the private sector, if we are going to successfully rewrite New York's economic future. Just yesterday, I was here in Buffalo, down at the Hyatt. There was a major conference on advanced energy. Over 450 people are there talking about a wide variety of different energy technologies. I had the privilege of addressing the attendees about the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship to economic revitalization, growth, and prosperity. And today, in a small building, southern part of Buffalo, we stand witness to yet another step in the right direction. Governor Cuomo has declared that New York State is open for business. But if we as a state are to fully realize the benefits of the governor's call to arms, we must be prepared to embrace in both spirit and reality the need for these partnerships among government, academia, and the private sector. Without hesitation or reservation, NYSERDA is pleased and proud to call Power Drives a partner. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Our next speaker is completing his first year in his current office. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, our senator, state senator from the 58th District, Tim Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Lou Panzica. Congratulations on this tremendous opportunity that you're presenting, not only this wonderful business here in South Buffalo, but Western New York and New York State. To Frank Murray and NYSERDA, thank you for your leadership and your investment in this small business here in Western New York, but all that you do across New York State. County Executive, it's great to see you back here in the neighborhood, and of course the representative from Senator Gillibrand's office, who will be in town tomorrow. This is just a great day, and any time that we have an opportunity to celebrate something that is uniquely Buffalo and uniquely Western New York, it's cause for celebration. This invention and this patent that's going to help create jobs right here in South Buffalo, right here in Western New York, that's going to have an impact on an industry that's far-reaching, not only in New York State, in the United States, but across the world, is something to celebrate immensely. And I'm happy and proud to call this organization, Power Drives Incorporated, a part of this community. And it's wonderful to see so many of you here that come to work right here every day in Western New York. You're the heartbeat of this company, and you're the heartbeat of what we have here in manufacturing as an industry here in Western New York. I am just happy as well that we are able to celebrate our geography and our weather, and embrace our weather and our geography, and make it a part of this transformation in the industry across the world right here in Western New York. And I'm also very happy to hear that our weather isn't close to what the mountains of Tibet have in store. Minus 40 degrees is a little bit too cold for me, but you know, it's not too cold for the powerhouse. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Our final speaker today is a man who brought Lean Six Sigma business practices to county government, and in doing so, saved the taxpayers millions of dollars and improved the delivery of county services. Welcome to the stage, our county executive, Chris Collins.
Thanks, Lou. I'm always happy to be anywhere we're talking about progress and jobs. Little known fact, Erie County has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the state or the entire nation. And we've had 17 consecutive months in Erie County of private sector job creation. That's something absolutely worth celebrating in the midst of the worst recession since the last Depression. But the reason is small business. We have been transformed over the last 30 years from a company that had the multi-thousand employee companies. When I came here in 1976 with Westinghouse Electric, 14,000 workers on Genesee Street. It's now the parking lot. And as Lou knows, manufacturing jobs create other jobs, more so than any other job there is. There's the traditional 6-to-1 multiplier. So I've always said when Westinghouse lost those 14,000 jobs, the community lost 84,000 jobs. So where are we today? We are now a community of small businesses like Power Drives. And I think Lou is being very modest. Lou has the vision. The CEO brings the vision to the organization, surrounds himself with the people that will do the work. But without the vision that Lou has brought for new technology, new products don't just pop out of nowhere. I mean, we just lost a great leader in Stephen Jobs. He had a vision that pushed forward Apple. And I would say that what you're seeing here today is a version of what you saw there, with the CEO challenging his organization to come up with products that no one else has thought about, that can be sold around the world, where it doesn't matter where you happen to be located, Western New York or otherwise. And a lot of what Power Drives does is products sold outside of the area. So I need to thank Lou, his family, and the employees for picking Western New York. They don't have to be here. It's not like a restaurant or some dry cleaner where your customers are here. This company doesn't have to be in South Buffalo. And the fact that it is also a tribute to the employees, because that's where it comes from. So Lou, I'm here to thank you for your vision. I can't help but notice, I talk about my 6 core values in running county government. I see your 6 core values right here: empowerment, teamwork, accountability, continuous improvement, respect, and integrity. I mean, the fact that you put those 6 core values front and center, I saw them the instant I walked in here, tells me something about your management team and what you do, because they're not just words. So very happy to join you today on this successful announcement. It's great that Frank NYSERDA is partnering with one of our successful local companies. Thank you for believing in our community. Tim, as always, we need your help in Albany. We need Albany to succeed. We need the governor to succeed to make this a more business-friendly state, and we're counting on you. So, Lou, thanks again for letting me join you today, and Congratulations to all the employees that made this happen.
All right, thank you, Chris. Okay, well, that concludes our press conference today. Hopefully you can all stay. We've got some food and refreshments in the back, and once again, I'll be running demos outside in the meantime. So thank you for attending.